Well, welcome to the podcast. I am Abigail, and today I have my sister Sarah with me. Cassidy is not with us on this episode, but Sarah is joining us to talk about when our designed birth plans are a little bit different than what God's plans are. And Sarah has some experience in this. So, Sarah, to start us off, could you just give us a brief summary of your birth experience from baby 1 to baby 5?
Sure. So, with Hudson being my first, with our mom always had home births and everything, so that was a desire, but I don't think I was quite comfortable at that point, really, for a home birth for sure. So I opted for a birth center. Started off that way, and after 42 hours of labor, we were transferred to a hospital because there was no forward progress past 5 centimeters. And we tried to do the epidural to try to rest my body, and he did not tolerate the Pitocin once they started doing that. So we had to go to a C-section. It wasn't considered an emergency one, so I was able to just have the epidural and be able to see him right away. And so that was a blessing. With our second born Uriah, I, because of the C-section, decided we would stick with the hospital to just make sure that I could birth naturally, because my desire was not to have another C-section. Yeah. So we were trying for what you call a VBAC. And that went fairly smoothly. We went in normally with labor and stuff, but then it kind of stalled. And then we did have to have Pitocin to just help me out a little bit the rest of the way. But as far as the pregnancy and labor delivery went, that was mostly the way it went. I was planning it out to be. Then our third Thorin, I just opted again for a hospital birth because we knew the doctor and everything.
Sure.
And that one also went pretty much according to plan. I didn't have a solid plan, but I was just, the only thing for me that was a little bit deterring was that I started labor and then it stopped. And I was like, what is going on with my body? Then it just kicked into full gear all of a sudden in the middle of the night, and we made it to the hospital. Thankfully, it was only 15 minutes away.
Yeah.
Water broke in the door. He was born 30 minutes later with just barely the help of the doctor.
Yeah.
So, and then Seth was totally not how I planned it to be. He ended up being an emergency C-section, but was planned to be a home birth. And Aurora was a hospital birth because of the prior C-sections and struggling to get a midwife that was comfortable with that. And as far as the pregnancy and the labor went, it was all fine until really the last 10, 15 minutes of labor where we realized there was something not right. And so then she ended up being in the NICU.
Right. So, then coming out of Hudson's birth, so you started off wanting to do a birth center and that didn't really go to plan. What were some of the internal battles that warred in you during those changing plans after Hudson's birth? I mean, did that affect you at all, or did that make no impact on how you felt everything went?
It definitely impacted me. I would say one of the bigger impacts is that you have, it happened with each birth, I would say, but you have kind of, as a mom or a new mom, a vision or a hope of what you want the birth to look like. And it did not go that way. And that was really hard. I struggled a lot with the fact of having to have a C-section when I really wanted nothing to do with medical intervention. And just feeling a little bit like a failure, but I did have such good influence of our mom. And we had a lactation consultant friend that went to our church, and she was awesome.
Yeah.
With just encouraging and pointing out the positives. And that is something that I found really, focusing on those positive things and the things that did come out of it that you are joyful and happy for. So that was, yes, it was hard. It was that going into the next pregnancies, there were those thoughts there, but yeah.
Yeah. And I don't really know, I guess giving birth is such a natural thing. You know, women have been doing it forever, and that's the way that God designed it. And, you know, it's one of those funny things where I don't fully understand why we take it so personal as like, oh, I didn't do enough, or I wasn't able to do it when it doesn't go right. But it does feel that way. And it feels in a way like failing. But I mean, like you said, and as you were encouraged, that's not the case. You know, there's no failure, and there are certain aspects that we have nothing to do with. And were it not for those medical interventions, we would see this rise in deaths, which we saw in the past. And it's one of those things that now we can look back on, and maybe it doesn't go according to plan, but praise the Lord that we have those medical interventions today.
Yeah, I definitely feel like we tear ourselves down because we see these Instagram things or things about natural births, and I definitely...
The free birthers in their backyard.
My opinion is definitely that if, you know, at all able to try to do that, yes, I am all for less medical intervention, even within the hospital, just being more willing to accept less medical intervention in hospital births. But yes, there's a blessing in having that also there accessible. So being willing to see both sides and being willing to be compassionate to both sides.
Right. Absolutely. So then after a pretty big wrench in your plans for Hudson's delivery, do you feel like this kind of impacted your planning or your outlook for your following births?
Yes, there was some fear of like, well, what if I can't do it? But at the same time, I wanted to try. And like I was saying, like I definitely had good influences in my life of just saying, well, if that's, you know, what you want, you know, we're willing to go with that kind of a thing. Doing research, definitely being in the Word and, you know, choosing to focus on what's truth and what's encouraging. But yeah, it did have an impact, you know, of just, yes, there was a slight fear or worry in the back of your mind kind of a thing.
Yeah. And I guess even just being willing to take that step back and say, okay, after a C-section, I'm not going to intentionally go in for an additional C-section, but we'll at least kind of meet in the middle and plan a hospital birth and go from there. Do you feel like you came into Seth's birth then with an open mindset? And do you feel like you were a little bit prepared for things happened? Or did you feel more blindsided by how that ended up going?
Seth's birth was definitely a blindside feeling because I had now experienced 2 VBACs that were pretty uneventful. That, you know, for me went mostly as planned. I'm not a huge plan everything out to a T kind of a person. You know, for Thorn really being the last one that was like super easy. It was like, okay, this is nice. This is a good rhythm. I feel confident in now switching back to my desire of a home birth.
Right.
And I loved my midwife and I really felt at peace about that situation. And
like, oh, God is opening up these doors.
Yes, I definitely felt like doors were open to that direction. And then, yeah, getting sick with COVID, being about 30 weeks pregnant, and then that lasting into my being 31 weeks and not going well for me, ending up in the hospital, and then transferred to ICU, which quickly turned into an emergency C-section at 31 weeks. And not seeing your baby at all, not holding your baby at all for the first 10 days. Totally opposite of what I planned with all the contact and delayed cord clamping and, more peaceful atmosphere. All of that was thrown out the window. And so, yes, a lot was crushed and crashed all about me. And that was a very dark, hard season. Again, I was encouraged because I had so many around me praying for me and praying for my son. And there was that encouragement and peace in knowing that we were struggling and we were going through a valley, but God was with us the whole way through, and he was surrounding us with his love through other Christians. That in itself was amazing, and we were very touched by that, very thankful. And I feel like that's something as a mother that when you're going through that time, seek out the truth, cry out to God, because he's listening. He wants to hear you cry out to him and to talk to him. I so many times think of David and, yes, many prophets and Hannah and so many other women crying out to God, about their problems or issues or fears. He's listening. He's there to comfort you and give you peace. I mean, there are so many Bible verses that I could think of and that were given to me during that time also that were such an encouragement. I think of Psalm 94:17. Unless the Lord had been my help, my soul had almost dwelt in silence. And that's how I felt. I felt so alone because of dealing with the COVID and being slightly isolated, and then no baby, and the plan did not go as planned. And I felt very confused and lost in the situation of like, why was this happening to me? And just that factor. And I also was just, I've always loved Psalm 139, and that is a verse, God was with me through every step of the way, no matter where I went, no matter where my child was. And he knew how Seth was knit and every part of him. And that was just a very hard time, but a very amazing time also, watching him take care of us each step of the way. And I still struggle with things about it and just wondering why. And I think a lot of that I might not know till I get to heaven. But I do know that each step of the way he took care of us. And even though it wasn't my plan at all, he had a plan, and we were well taken care of.
Yeah. And I mean, it's not something that we like to dwell on, but I do think that sometimes God takes drastic measures to get our attention and to draw us near to him. And, I don't know if that's what it was, but I do think that sometimes those situations that come up in our lives when we're devastated and feeling like, why would God do this? Just remembering like he's our Father and he wants us to draw near to him. And sometimes he'll take these great measures to get our attention, but then also to comfort us and to give us a greater blessing through it. And I do know that through your testimony that you certainly blessed us as your family, being able to just see that and see how the Lord was working through you and through your husband, Peter. But then, many others around.
Yes, I definitely feel like it helps to grow a compassion for others.
Yeah, that too.
As a Christian, you can help to relate or have compassion to somebody else going through a trial.
So when you found out that you were pregnant with Aurora, did you have any kind of apprehension or a set mindset going into that pregnancy?
Definitely had apprehension and some fear. There's this excitement of getting pregnant, but a fear of I really don't want to have anything like that happen again. So there's just a fear of something going wrong, but at the same time, hope that okay, this is my redemption pregnancy kind of a thing, and that I will, be able to do what I really desire and at home birth and everything to go smoothly. And the Lord closed that door fairly quickly, it felt like to me. I mean, it was long but quick. I was able to have a midwife for the time when we were in Florida. So roughly the first 6 months or so of pregnancy.
And just a quick cut. We're migratory beekeepers. So half of the year it's in Florida doing work. And then once it gets too hot and muggy, come to Wisconsin and do work.
Yes. So I was able to at least have that joy of having a midwife and her coming to the house and being relaxed about that situation. But I kept getting told no about midwives up here for the actual delivery. And so that was the initial like heartbreak to me, and just a door being closed and just kind of a little bit of asking the Lord why, but also knowing that he was not giving me peace about the situation with the midwives up here anyways. And so that was really, I understood he's closing this door.
Right.
And so then we switched gears to a doctor, and we found one that would kind of do what we were hoping for with little intervention. He was willing to, let me do basically what I wanted to do. I did have some anxiety things, so Peter was with me with most of all the appointments really, and so that was really great for me and just giving me peace and strength. And I feel like that was one thing that the Lord has blessed me with, is giving me a husband that was my rock.
Right.
During those situations. And really her whole pregnancy was great. It was really fine.
Yeah.
And I take joy in that, and knowing that he has given me really with all 5 of them a great pregnancy. Really the last 10, 15 minutes of the delivery was where it went downhill, and my hopes, desires, plans were crashed and burned.
Yeah.
And that was very heartbreaking for me. I definitely struggled with that and asking the Lord, why is this happening to me again? And just dealing with the situation of not getting those desires, not getting the baby snuggled close to me, because they had to take her right away because of aspirating on her meconium and having so many medical issues. Her birth and stay in the NICU was a lot more medical intervention compared to Seth.
Right. With Seth, there was definitely a higher concern for your safety. And then for Aurora, it was, of course, concern for her safety and what that might look like.
So yeah, the pregnancy went according to plan. That birth and postpartum were a great struggle for me. It was definitely a dark point in time. And I just, again, like I had talked about with Seth, I went back to just really filling myself with Bible verses, words of encouragement, whether it was, given to me from friends and family, or, from the Bible or worship songs, just trying to fill my heart and mind with truth and encouragement, so to help me to not dwell in fear, and at times it's self-pity of just, why is this happening to me? I have it so bad, woe is me, kind of a thing. And yeah, it was not cool, it was not fun, it was painful, but I also know that there are other women that have gone through worse than me or the same, and they can also and have also come out of it with a joy in their heart. And one verse that a friend shared with me was Isaiah 43:2. When thou passest through the waters, I will be with thee, and through the rivers, they shall not overflow thee. When thou walkest through the fire, thou shalt not be burned, neither shall the flame kindle upon thee. And I did take comfort in that, and knowing that it felt like waters were crashing over me. It felt like the fire was burning all around me. But each step of the way, God was with me. He closed that door on a midwife for a reason. We were in where we were needed to be, because Aurora needed immediate medical attention. She basically was on my chest for maybe a minute. I never heard her cry. She couldn't do that. And so we were blessed in the fact that we had a NICU right there ready to go. And we were just blessed in all the care that they had for her, and seeing her lungs go from severely damaged to almost fully recovered within a week was amazing. And I think of Psalm 139 and how God perfectly knits our bodies within our mother's wombs, and how he has created our bodies so amazingly. She had lots of medicine, lots of medical intervention, but her lungs and her body did do the healing, and that's all because of God.
Right. Yeah, Psalm 139 says, "Marvelous are thy works, and that my soul knoweth right well." He is just a great creator, and again, he lets us in on that. Maybe not the way that we would like him to, but he certainly does demonstrate himself to us. So then, as we're kind of closing up here, do you have some words of encouragement and maybe lessons that you have learned and truths that you've rooted yourself in through the years?
Lessons I've learned that things do not go according to plan most of your life, even with other life issues, not necessarily just pregnancy, and being willing to be accepting of that, and not choosing not to be bitter about it, because there were definitely moments, I wouldn't say a long period of time, but moments of just feeling very upset at why this was happening again, and why is this happening? Why do I have to deal with this? Why don't I have a baby with me? Going, all these different things, and just questioning that, or choosing to be upset, but then also, just realizing that that is not the right heart. And the right heart is to see that God walked through that with me and my family each step of the way, each time. Just remembering Psalm 46:1, God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. And, that is so true. Each time he was there, very present help in trouble. And the encouragement, truth, seek truth, whether it's the Bible verses, encouragement at church, from other ladies, your husband, your mother-in-law, people in your family, mother, just being willing to see the truth and to let that fill you, and indwell you in your mind, and not fear, anger, anxiety, because that's so easy to do, as a woman, and as a mother or mother-to-be. We do allow a lot of that to control us. And I can speak that there were times that felt like it was overwhelmingly trying to control me. But at the same time, that was a time when I would choose to talk to God, choose to go look at that verse that somebody sent me.
Yeah.
Turn on the music that is worship music, and filling your heart and mind with the fact that he's ever there with you. He's watching over you. There are so many great songs that remind us of that, and that our God is a mighty God. He's all powerful. He's created us, created this earth. He loves us and cares for us. He sent Jesus to be our Savior. And it's like, how amazing is that he sacrificed his own son for somebody that didn't care about him. How, what a perfect love he had for us. That's just proof there that he loves you so much, even though you're going through this struggle.
Yeah.
We're only seeing the small picture. And so many times I do tell myself, well, maybe I'm going through the struggle, one, to stretch me and make me more like him, and to understand his heart more, but also to maybe one day be an encouragement to somebody that's going through something similar to me. And I can say, it's okay.
Yeah.
You'll come through this fire, and that he's with you. And, being willing to just be a presence to that person, or a hug, those are all great things to be an encouragement to somebody. You don't have to have the perfect words. And I keep telling myself that I don't have to have the perfect words to encourage somebody. I can just say it's okay, or I love you, or how you doing, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Those little aspects work. I was thinking of the words for the song, How Firm a Foundation, which has actually really started to become a favorite hymn of mine. but it talks about how the flames will not hurt you. And my only desire is that like gold to refine the dross. Oh man, now I forgot the words, but just so beautifully of how God's will isn't to hurt us, but it's to refine us and to remove the dross from our lives. And yes, it's scary, it's painful, but he's right there really gently doing a work in our lives. And I just want to highlight a little bit of, the fact that it's easy for us to say now some of these things, or you might be listening and thinking, oh, it's easy for them to say in retrospect. But I will say that walking through it with Sarah, or watching her walk through it, she was a woman that was really practicing what she's saying right now. It would be very easy to be anxiety ridden, and many women are, where they say, well, I'm just not going to do anything, or I'm never going to have more kids because I had a bad experience. And that might be you, and you might be healing through that right now. But my encouragement is that you would fill your heart with truth, and that would strengthen you. And, being in the hospital room with Sarah at different points, and I was pregnant with my own baby, it was very easy for me to feel like, wow, I think that in her shoes, I might just shut down, or I don't know that I would have a joyful spirit or a kind spirit. I think that I might
there was a lot of joy, but
there was peace.
there was some joy in seeking the little things out.
I'm just saying, yes. Every time that I visited you in the hospital, I never felt like, she's so bitter, or no, I genuinely always felt like, she has so much peace. I don't know how she's doing this. She's so strong. And thinking of Philippians, where it talks about the peace that passes all understanding. And that was all that I could walk away from there saying is, wow, God gives us peace that just doesn't make sense. And I know that I can't read your mind, and I didn't know all the battles that you were going through, but as an onlooker, you were certainly a testimony of how a Christian should walk, and just the amazing God that we serve. And even though things are hard, he is powerful and he is sovereign.
Yes, he is. I mean, there's, a lot of internal battles, but yes, you can choose to, put on God's, faithfulness, his kindness, and just allowing that to cover you, his peace and strength. And, like I've said, doesn't mean you don't struggle with it, or you don't have times of fear or anxiety, or just asking why, and sometimes in anger. And I always think of, it's okay to have like a righteous anger, but don't let your anger control you or cause you to become bitter, or the sun to go down upon it, which have a time of being upset about something, but also being willing to let go or allow the Lord to comfort you.
Yeah.
And to not let it totally control you.
Well, thank you so much, Sarah, just for joining us and giving us your experience and your insight. And hopefully for those of you listening, this can be encouraging if you've gone through this season and you might be battling these feelings of failure, these feelings of just loss and grieving that. But you might also be planning a birth and getting excited and going through your list. And so an encouragement is hold those plans with loose hands, and just being willing to trust that the Lord who created us, he does have a greater plan, and he is sovereign in all that he has.
And he wants that for you. He wants joy for you and happiness. So holding it loosely, but still seeing, being willing to plan and to see joy, throughout your pregnancy, labor, delivery, and postpartum, still being willing to do that. Don't let fear creep in. Don't let it get a hold or control you, because it's a liar. But God is truth, and he loves you, and he wants to fill you with that joy and the joy of birth and a new life.
Yeah.
So Abby was asking if I had any songs that I did have during these different trials or times that I took joy in, and I have a few. I have more than one.
Mhm.
But one or a few during the time, for sure, after having Aurora. One was that had just come out, was Counting My Blessings by Seth Schulter. That was great, because just talking about how they're more than you can number, the blessings. Even though you might be going through a trial and it's hard, you can still find blessings. Another one that I truly would sing out in my room was The Goodness of God. And then there's Leanne Crawford has the Psalm 23, and just the fact of her stating the fact of writing, God's word on your heart for when you need it, kind of things. And I've always loved Casting Crowns, and one song that did speak to me during those times was called Storm or something like that. It has to talk about with the feeling like you can't hear God in the storm, but at the same time knowing that he is there and he is listening and he is speaking to you. So those are just a couple, but I will say that I always loved Sovereign Grace. One song that India sent me after I had Seth, and I also listened to it a lot with Aurora, was This Valley Is For Me. Really spoke to me. It really reminded me of God's goodness and watching over and leading, protecting, growing me, and those other people in the songs their time. So yeah, those are a few songs.
All right. Well, thank you. Today we were spoiled with multiple songs of the week. Thanks for joining us.